A young woman enters a hotel elevator. She presses several buttons, steps into the corner, and waits. But the doors do not close. She approaches the hallway, looks in both directions, and quickly steps back. For several minutes, a security camera records her entering and leaving the elevator, making movements that no one watching can completely understand. There is nobody else visible. Then, without warning, she walks out of the frame. The doors finally close, and the elevator begins operating normally. That recording would eventually be watched millions of times. People would slow it down, enlarge individual frames, and search the empty hallway for another figure. Some believed Elisa Lam was hiding from someone. Others saw evidence of a conspiracy. And some became convinced that something supernatural had happened inside the hotel. But while the world examined every second of the recording, something important was being forgotten. The person inside that elevator was not a fictional character. She was not the opening scene of a horror movie. She was a 21-year-old daughter whose parents were waiting for a telephone call that never came. And by the time the world saw the video, Elisa had already been missing for almost 2 weeks. Elisa Lam was born and raised in Canada. She came from a close family in Vancouver and attended the University of British Columbia. Friends remembered her as intelligent, friendly, and thoughtful. Online, she wrote about books, fashion, travel, ambition, and the uncertainty many young adults experience while trying to understand their place in the world. She also wrote honestly about her mental health. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. These conditions were part of her life, but they were not her entire identity. She was also curious, observant, and determined to experience something beyond the routine she knew. In January of 2013, Elisa planned a solo journey through California. To her, it was an adventure. She would travel by train and bus, explore unfamiliar cities, visit bookstores, and take photographs. Throughout the journey, she remained in regular contact with her parents, reassuring them as she moved from one destination to another. That daily contact became an unspoken promise. As long as Elisa called home, her family knew she was safe. On January 26, Elisa reached Los Angeles and checked into a budget hotel in downtown. Its official name was the Cecil Hotel, although part of the building was being advertised to younger travelers under the more inviting name, Stay on Main. Online photographs showed a bright lobby, fashionable furniture, and an affordable place near popular Los Angeles attractions. The surrounding reality was considerably more complicated. The Cecil had opened during the 1920s as an impressive destination for business travelers. Over the following decades, downtown Los Angeles changed. The neighborhoods surrounding the hotel struggled with poverty, crime, and homelessness. The Cecil gradually became associated with disturbing incidents and notorious former guests. By 2013, the owners were attempting to distance the building from that reputation. Stay on Main occupied part of the same property, but it shared elevators and other facilities with the Cecil. Elisa may not have understood that distinction when she booked her room. At first, she stayed in shared accommodation. Reports later indicated that she was moved into a private room after other guests expressed concern about some of her behavior. Yet there was no report of violence, and nothing suggested that she had become involved in a confrontation. On January 31, Elisa was expected to check out and continue north toward Santa Cruz. That same day, she visited the last bookstore in downtown Los Angeles. The store's manager, Katie Orphan, would later remember Elisa as energetic and sociable. Elisa was buying gifts for her family and wondering whether the books she had selected would make her luggage too heavy. It is a small detail, but it may be the most important detail in the entire story. In the final confirmed public memory of Elisa, she was thinking about home. She was thinking about the people expecting her return. But that evening, Elisa did not contact her parents. At first, the silence may not have seemed impossible. A telephone battery can die. Travel plans can change. A bus can be delayed. Then more time passed. Elisa still did not call. Her parents knew this was unlike her. They contacted authorities and soon traveled to Los Angeles to help search for their daughter. They entered an unfamiliar city carrying the fear every parent understands. The fear that something had happened far away, in a place where they had not been able to protect her. Police examined Elisa's hotel room. Her possessions had been left behind. Officers searched the building and used tracking dogs in the areas they could legally access, including parts of the rooftop. However, they could not open and search every occupied guest room without evidence that a crime had occurred. The Cecil was enormous. Hundreds of rooms, long corridors, stairwells, service areas, and separate sections operating under different names. Searching it was less like searching one building, and more like searching a maze. Detectives interviewed hotel employees and examined the available security recordings. Outside, missing person posters carrying Elisa's photograph appeared throughout downtown Los Angeles. Days passed without a confirmed sighting. There was no clear evidence that Elisa had left the hotel. But there was also no obvious indication of where she had gone. Then investigators discovered the elevator recording. On February 13, police released the footage to the public. They hoped someone would recognize Elisa or notice a detail that could help locate her. Instead, the recording became an international mystery. In the video, Elisa enters the elevator alone and presses several buttons. She moves toward the corner, apparently expecting the doors to close. But they remain open. She cautiously looks into the hallway. At one point, she steps outside before returning. Later, she moves into the corridor and makes a series of unusual hand gestures. Eventually, she walks away. The camera never records her returning. Once she is gone, the doors close and open several times before the elevator continues its normal operation. Without context, the footage is deeply unsettling. Why did the doors remain open? Was Elisa communicating with somebody beyond the camera's view? Why did she appear to move against the elevator wall? And where did she go after leaving the frame? People across the internet believed they could solve it. They replayed the footage at different speeds. They adjusted the brightness. They studied shadows, reflections, and individual pixels. Every movement became evidence for a different theory. Some viewers claimed that another person was standing in the hallway. Others believed the recording had been deliberately altered. The blurred timestamp and irregular playback speed added to those suspicions, even though security footage is frequently processed before being released publicly. But one much simpler detail received considerably less attention. Among the buttons Elisa pressed was a door control button. Elevator specialists later demonstrated that this could explain why the doors remained open for an extended period. It answered one of the biggest questions surrounding the footage. But by then, the internet had already decided that an ordinary explanation was not interesting enough. The Cecil Hotel's reputation made speculation almost unavoidable. Every disturbing event from its past was brought into Elisa's story. Videos described the building as cursed. Paranormal explanations appeared beside theories involving secret attackers, hotel employees, and government experiments. Coincidences were presented as clues. Assumptions were repeated until they began sounding like evidence. Some viewers convinced themselves that Elisa had been pursued, even though the camera showed nobody following her. Others insisted she had taken illegal substances, although later testing found no evidence supporting that conclusion. The investigation was being transformed into online entertainment. Yet for Elisa's family, there was nothing entertaining about it. While strangers argued about ghosts and hidden figures, her parents were still in Los Angeles. Still searching. Still hoping that their daughter might walk through a door. Then, on February 19th, the hotel began investigating complaints involving its water system. A maintenance employee named Santiago Lopez went to the roof to inspect 4 large water tanks that supplied parts of the building. Reaching them required him to pass through the rooftop area and climb to the elevated platform where the tank stood. One of the tank hatches was open. Inside, he found Elisa. Nearly 3 weeks after she disappeared, the search was over. The discovery shocked the public and created a new set of questions. How had Elisa reached the roof? Why had the earlier search not located her? Could she have entered the tank without assistance? And if the roof was supposedly protected by a locked door and alarm, had somebody else taken her there? News reports repeated one especially troubling detail. The tank hatch had supposedly been closed when Elisa was discovered. That claim became central to countless conspiracy theories. If Elisa had entered alone, people asked, how could she have replaced the hatch afterward? But the claim was not true. The maintenance employee stated in court documents that the hatch was already open when he inspected the tank. One of the most famous supposedly impossible details of the mystery had been constructed from inaccurate reporting. The rooftop itself was not completely unreachable. Although the main access door was secured and connected to an alarm, the building's exterior fire escape offered another possible route. Visitors later demonstrated that it was possible to reach the rooftop without using the protected interior entrance. None of this proves precisely which route Elisa followed. There was no camera on the roof recording her movements. But the roof was not the sealed fortress it had been portrayed as being. Investigators waited for medical and toxicology results. When the coroner's conclusions were released, they did not support the popular murder theories. There was no evidence of physical violence or an attack. Testing did not indicate that illegal drugs had caused Elisa's behavior. Her death was officially classified as an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder identified as a significant contributing condition. Investigators also examined the prescription medication found among Elisa's belongings and compared it with the levels detected during testing. The pattern suggested that she may not have been following her prescribed medication schedule. This mattered because an interruption in treatment can severely affect someone living with bipolar disorder. Investigators believed Elisa may have been experiencing a serious mental health episode that altered her perception of what was happening around her. Her behavior inside the elevator could then be understood differently. Perhaps there was no attacker standing beyond the camera. Elisa may have been responding to a danger that felt completely real to her, even though nobody else could see it. That explanation cannot reconstruct every moment. It cannot tell us exactly which route she followed or what she believed was happening. It does, however, fit the available evidence more closely than the elaborate theories that spread across the internet. The open hatch mattered. The accessible fire escape mattered. The toxicology findings mattered. And the absence of evidence indicating another person's involvement mattered. Yet facts arrived slowly. Frightening theories traveled instantly. One innocent man experienced the consequences of those theories. Internet investigators discovered videos made by a Mexican musician who performed under the name Morbid. He had once recorded material at the Cecil Hotel, and his artistic image was intentionally dark. That was enough for strangers to declare him a suspect. There was one enormous problem. He had visited the hotel long before Elisa arrived and was not even in the United States during her stay. Police said he had no involvement in the case. Still, people harassed him and reported his accounts. A person with no connection to Elisa had been turned into a villain because his appearance matched the story the internet wanted to tell. It demonstrated the danger of treating a real investigation like an interactive game. When speculation is presented as fact, innocent people can be harmed. Elisa's family later filed a negligence lawsuit against the hotel. They argued that the rooftop water tanks should have been better secured and that the property had failed to protect guests from a dangerous area. The case was dismissed in 2015. The court determined that the hotel could not reasonably have predicted the specific chain of events that led to Elisa's death. A legal judgment, however, could not answer the emotional questions. Why was the rooftop not examined more thoroughly during the initial search? Why was the tank not checked sooner? Would improved security have changed the outcome? Could somebody have recognized that Elisa needed help before she disappeared? Those questions remain painful because they do not require a conspiracy. They require only the possibility that several small failures aligned at exactly the wrong moment. Today, the elevator footage continues to circulate. New videos repeatedly promise that a hidden clue will finally solve the mystery. Thumbnails show shadowy figures that were never recorded. Headlines ask whether Elisa was murdered, even though investigators found no evidence of an attacker. The mystery is often described as the story of the Cecil Hotel. But it should be remembered as the story of Elisa Lam. Elisa was a young woman traveling through California with books in her luggage and gifts for her family. She called home regularly because she knew her parents worried. She wrote about wanting to experience more of the world, even while managing a condition that sometimes made that world difficult to navigate. Her final confirmed public conversation was not about fear, ghosts, or conspiracies. It was about whether the books she had chosen would be too heavy to carry. That is the Elisa the elevator footage cannot show us. The camera recorded only a few confusing minutes from a life that contained thousands of ordinary and meaningful moments. Yet those minutes became more famous than everything that came before them. Perhaps that is the real warning hidden inside this case. We are drawn to mysteries because they promise a dramatic answer. A secret figure in the hallway. A locked roof. An altered recording. Or a hotel hiding something terrible. But sometimes the truth is quieter. Sometimes a vulnerable person becomes disoriented in an unfamiliar place. Sometimes warning signs are misunderstood. Sometimes an open hatch, an accessible fire escape, and a delayed search are enough to create a tragedy that appears impossible. The evidence does not answer every question. We may never know exactly what Elisa was thinking when she left the elevator or how much of her surroundings she understood. No honest documentary should pretend otherwise. But uncertainty is not evidence of murder. And a gap in our knowledge is not permission to fill it with ghosts, accusations, or invented villains. The most haunting part of Elisa Lam's story is not that an unseen person might have been standing outside the elevator. It is that she may have been completely alone. And that millions of people became fascinated by her only after it was too late to help her. So, when the footage appears again, do not begin by asking what was hiding in the hallway. Begin with the young woman on the screen. Remember her name. Remember the family waiting for her call. And remember that behind every famous mystery is a human life far more important than the mystery itself.